and I think doing well in general. It's great to be. Hopefully, we'll be able to do one of these face to face soon. I hope.
Uh-huh.
And I know. Hopefully, I think you guys have one. If you want to promote, don't you have some event coming up later this year out in San Diego?
Oh yeah, I will mention that once we kick this off for sure.
Very
So
good.
I mean, we'll put it in the chat box as well. So for more information. So yeah,
I guess I've missed you on some of my recent trips out there. I was out there for Marsec West for the defense side in San Diego. So fortunately, I missed you and Danielle, but I'll have to catch up the next time I'm out there.
yeah. I mean, I think I was there on the last day. So I mean, I probably missed you.
That's right. That was the day I wasn't there.
Yeah, darn. Yes, but that was very interesting. I appreciate being able to go to that. So anyway, thank you to Sean for telling me about it. Okay. Well, good. I suppose we can kick this off. It's 7:50. People are still logging in, but we'll just start in any case. So good morning, everyone. My name is Matt Klassen. I'm the Executive Director of TMA BlueTech. Of course, want to welcome everyone to our monthly BlueTech Global Connect webinar. Today, our topic is Autonomous BlueTech Taking on the Dirty, Dangerous, and Dull in the Ocean Space. We have, again, arranged a fantastic panel today. Our moderator for today's discussion is David Marchetti, who is the Senior Director for the Americas of Business Development for Oceanpower Technologies. Again, he's the moderator. Our presenting companies are represented by Sam McDonald. She is the president of Deep Trekker out of Canada. We have Dave Gentle, who is the business development head of North America for Argeo. They're a Norwegian-based company, but they have an office in the US. We did have Cheyenne Huck, who's the business development manager for Blue out of France, but he unfortunately has come down with a cold, so he's had to withdraw at the last minute. We, of course, wish Cheyenne a speedy recovery, but that said, we are very lucky to be able to have Michael Jones, who is the managing director of Subsea Sail. He will take Cheyenne's spot. So before I hand this over to David for moderation, and for those who do not know, TMA BlueTech is a San Diego, California-based nonprofit. We promote sustainable, science-based ocean and water industries. Our tagline is promoting blue tech and blue jobs. We are based on the triple helix model, which brings together academia, policy, and industry to further the cause of sustainable blue tech. Our three areas of focus are economic development, business ecosystem development, and national and international outreach. Now, this is the part where I did want to talk about our 14th annual Blue Tech Week conference. This will be held again in person this year from November 14th to the 18th. Blue Tech Week is one of the world's premier Blue Tech conferences where we bring together a fascinating array of high-level professionals from around the world to talk about the state of blue tech through the lens of academia, industry, and policy. The theme for this year's Blue Tech Week will be One Earth, One Water Cycle. I will put a link in the chat box for those of you who want to reference this event for more information. Also, I will put in the URL for TMA BlueTech's LinkedIn page if you would like to follow us there as well. I'll put that in the chat. Just a few housekeeping topics before I hand this over to David. Our presenters will have 8 minutes each to present. At around the 7-minute mark, I will give a signal that 1 minute is remaining. Other than this, David will facilitate the discussion, especially the Q&A at the end, where we should have about 30 to 40 minutes to discuss the questions in a roundtable style fashion. Finally, if you would like to ask a question, write it into the chat box and we will make sure it is asked during Q&A. So with that, I would like to hand the table over to David Marchetti from Oceanpower Technologies. David, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Matt. Good morning, everybody. It's great to be sharing some of this information today. As you all know, the world keeps changing and providing us with new challenges and opportunities, and some entrepreneurs have developed unique autonomous solutions and subsequent companies around this whole thing to address these challenges. And today you're going to hear from different groups. It's a global representation, so I think it's going to be a great panel today and actually share a lot of what we're doing in the blue tech space. I'll share my, if Danielle will let me, I'll share my screen. All right, so the first question is, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
All right, perfect. So as Matt said, I'm David Marchetti. I work for Oceanpower Technologies. I'm based in Houston, Texas. Our company is actually based in New Jersey. And this is from our lawyer. So I'm going to have to, let me see if I can get rid of this. There we go. So I wanted to put this out there. If anybody wants to read it, happy to share a copy of it. So our company, I think most of you are aware of Oceanpower Technologies, and just to be clear, we're actually rebranding. It'll be going forward. It'll be known as OPT, which a lot of people knew it by that name, but we are expanding beyond just Oceanpower, as a lot of you know. The company is a fairly small public company based out of New Jersey, like I said, but we're expanding our operations. We now have capabilities to do engineering and sales out of Houston, Texas. We also now have capabilities to do manufacturing and engineering on the West Coast in Richmond, California, and you'll understand why that is very soon here. So, in the original days of Oceanpower, we were going after utility scale projects, and it was great. That's how we developed the technology we have today. We used funding from Department of Energy, funding from the Navy, and we actually developed some really good technology, but they were very large and cumbersome at that point, and it wasn't very profitable to be in the grid connected wave energy market at that point. Wind was coming up, offshore wind, and also solar. And so there wasn't a lot of funding available for wave energy, but we used that to develop a really robust way to harness the waves and actually generate local power. So in the mid 2015, 2016, our company pivoted. We did a major pivot, changed out the management. A lot of it was changed. Our strategy was changed, and we realized we have very good technology. And let's make it in a smaller, more manageable piece. Let's scale it down. And so we started building our PB3 power buoy, which y'all are familiar with. And that is a true wave energy converter, but it's only 40 feet long, so it's able to be shipped in containers and much more easily transferable and usable. But we used a lot of the technology from those early days, and we still have it in our buoys, because that's how we developed a patentable way to harness wave energy that makes us unique and is very robust. Then we started getting contracts in the 2017, 2018 area. And our first, we had to find an early adopter of our technology. It was hard to find anybody that would take the chance on it. And it ended up being Mitsui out of Japan. They were the first ones to use our PB3, very successful. And then we started moving into the oil and gas world, as you can see there, where we started. One of our first oil and gas customers was Eni out of Italy. And they were the ones that used our buoy very successfully. And now you can see we're starting to grow move into the area of adding other product lines, as you'll see, where the customers needed more than just the PB3. They asked us to develop those. We did. And as of last year, we also acquired 2 companies. We acquired 3Dent, that does analysis of all of offshore structures. And we also acquired Marine Advanced Robotics, like I said, that's on the West Coast. Going forward, one of the exciting things that we're doing is we're actually starting to offer data as a service and power as a service. So that's where we're headed, that's where we've been and where we're headed. So our products here that we're offering, these are our commercially available products that we have. I talked a little bit about the PB3 on the left there. That one is, we still have that off the coast of, right now we have one off the coast of Chile that they're using for environmental monitoring. This is Enel Green Power using it. Very exciting. They're using that to make sure that before they put anything else in the water, that the environment is not affected by our buoy. So we're actually doing, we're monitoring mammals, we're monitoring the different mid-ocean conditions that are there, and making sure that if they ever put anything else in the water, that those conditions are not adversely affected by what you're doing. Over time, our customers came and asked, okay, well, that's great. You can do wave energy converters, but what about areas where there isn't a lot of waves? And so we developed our solar buoy that we have there, the second from the left. And that one is great because it uses, it combines solar panel with a backup Stirling engine. And so that can be used for areas where there isn't a lot of wave, but they still want remote power. That's where OPT cut our teeth on providing remote offshore power and communications solutions. And now we're providing pure data solutions from anywhere in the world. The WAM-Vs that I'll talk a little bit more about, these are our new product line, which are autonomous surface vehicles, or other people know them as unmanned surface vehicles. And I'll tell you, like I said, some of the applications. We also have developed a subsea battery that is great for immediate power. So it can be used at water depths. That one is specifically designed for water depths up to 500 meters. So it's great for the North Sea and for shallow water applications. We can recharge those batteries with any of our buoys, which is a great feature. And that one can hold up to 100 kilowatt hours of storage in it. So it's a great independent thing that we can use for a lot of different operations. And then I talked a little bit more, or I talked earlier about our the consulting service that we acquired, which was 3Dent, for those of you familiar with that space. They do a lot of analysis. They can design and analyze anything that is a lift boat, jackup, or deep water floater. And now they are starting to move into the offshore floating wind area where they do design and analysis for that. So it's a great complementary product line. We added these product lines because we were already partnering with these companies and working with them on projects, and it just made sense to work together and share the resources. And it's been a great marriage so far. So talking about the WAM-Vs, I'm sure people are going, what is WAM-V? What does that mean? You know, it's actually, it stands for Wave Adaptive Modular Vessel. So in a sense, it's a vessel that when the waves come through, if you look on the upper right there, one of the great features about our USV ASV that sets us apart is that it has an articulating suspension. So it's independent. It's like an off-road vehicle. Whereas as one pontoon goes over the wave, the trough of the wave, or goes through the trough of the wave, the other one is on the peak. And that way, then, since they're independent, we can actually keep the payload very stable. So that way, then you're getting really good pictures on the surface. You're getting very good sonar data without the vessel moving all over the place. We build these we offer them currently in 8, 16, and 22 feet versions. The great other thing about these vehicles that are used mostly for sonar and for surveying, but the great thing about them is they're very lightweight. Those are inflatable floats on the front there. And so we can actually have a couple of personnel can actually lift it and install it and assemble it. So you don't have to have a very large launch system. You can actually launch them from either the beach. They can be transported on a trailer. You back it up and just put it right in the water. Or the great thing about it for the military is we can actually literally throw it off the back of a boat and get it into operation. It's remotely operated, which is great. You can either program it for missions in semi-autonomous mode or in real autonomy mode. You can actually operate the thing from the beach or operate it from a vessel. And the other thing is it's shallow draft, which is great. So, and it can be easily transportable. This is what's great is you can break those down, and I've done it recently. You can actually put them in a bunch of Pelican cases and ship them commercially. We just did one, the 8-footer, we shipped commercially, and literally when we got it back to the destination, we reassembled it with 2 people in less than a half an hour. So really great feature. It's great for remote areas and for people who don't have a lot of storage space. So some of the advanced capabilities of these are something that I wanted to focus on. It's truly made for very easily to do sonar and survey work, but we also have, and we've done this for the military, we can launch and recover an autonomous vehicle, an aerial one, a drone. We did that 100 times for the Navy off the coast of California just to prove it works. It's all autonomous. And then we also are able to launch and recover a small ROV. So you can not only use it for the survey part, but you can also do it for inspection, maintenance, and repair, or IMR work in oil and gas, and also for wind farms. It's starting to gain some traction to use it. We now have projects, and I'll be able to share some experiences with these hopefully the next time we talk, where we're doing projects with these in Trinidad and in Alaska right now, which is amazing, knowing that how cold it is in Alaska. This is being used for survey work up there. So one other area that I wanted to focus on that is new for us, or fairly new, is the environmental monitoring and marine domain awareness use in the wind farms and offshore wind. Our buoys are able to, currently, like I said, they're being used for environmental monitoring off the coast of Chile. We've used it in the Adriatic Sea and also the North Sea. They're field proven. Now we are starting to use them for offshore wind, where you can either drop them in the ocean before you actually develop the wind farms to do environmental monitoring. You can use it during operations of the wind farms to make sure that the environment and migration patterns are not being affected. You can also use it for what a lot of people are using it for, and including the military side, is for exclusion zone monitoring and monitoring the maritime domain awareness. So monitoring vessel traffic in the area. These are all, as you know, unmanned wind farms, and they will be unmanned even on the West Coast. So you need something out there to be able to monitor what's going on with the vessels. You can put things on the turrets or on the turbines, but what we do is we put our buoys miles away from the turbines to actually warn people. We have our own AIS, our own radar, and our own infrared camera on the buoys. And so we can actually warn the vessels that this is a protected area. Be careful. As you've probably seen, there's been instances of vessels currently running into the wind turbines. They've also been instances of vessels damaging the underwater cables, the power cables. So our buoys can actually monitor vessel traffic. You can use it to ward off things, but you can also record if people are actually damaging the area. You can use it for later for prosecution. And then finally, you can use our buoys to charge underwater vehicles. One of the things that we've done with E&I is that you're able to put a docking station on the seafloor and actually use it to charge underwater vehicles. You create
David,
a resident ROV.
If that's, sorry to interrupt, about a minute, if that's okay. Thank you.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
And so then the great thing about that is you reduce your carbon emissions, you reduce your carbon footprint. You're not having a vessel go out there. You have live eyes, in essence, another set of eyes. That's what E&I used it on their unmanned platforms. So this is a perfect application for offshore wind. You'll still need vessels for installation and for maintenance, but this way you have eyes on it and you can save costs, and you can also reduce the potential for your personnel being hurt by leaving our buoys out there, because in very strong seas, 30-footers, off the coast of North Sea, our buoys were able to stay out there, whereas a vessel typically will not be able to operate in 30-foot seas. That's all I have for today.
Excellent. Thank you, David, very much. I will, of course, step out of your way. You're facilitating at this point, so take it away.
Thank you. And so now we will move on to the heart of our program today, and we're going to have Michael Jones introduce subsea sail and tell us what's going on in that part of the space. Michael, take it away.
Sure. Let me share my screen. Okay. First of all, I'm really sorry that XBlue couldn't participate, and but I was pleased to have the opportunity to be here with such great companies. I'm going to talk a little bit about our company, which is just turning 5 years old in May. We are a maker of unique, capable platforms and sensors. We have 5 issued patents and a series of patents pending. This is our unmanned semi-submersible observation vessel. And if you look in the lower left-hand corner in the turquoise, we've named that our Horus line. And then we will have multi-hull cargo vessels, which I'll talk about in a minute. That's our Hermes line, and then some unique sensors. Our vessel is quite lightweight. It's about 32 kilos with onboard processing. I'm talking now about our Horus line, the semi-submersible. We try and design our technologies to be simple, It's taken us years longer than we thought, but I guess that's typical for many manufacturers. We are disruptively affordable. We're about 1/10 the price of almost any other long duration surface vessel. As you can see, we have a wing sail. We have a minimal signature, so we have virtually no acoustic signature. We have no hull slap, for example, because we don't have a traditional hull. We have no heat signature, we have no radar signature, and we have a see-through sail. We can make ourselves very visible if we want, but it's hard to make something invisible. So we essentially designed it to be invisible. We're highly scalable and variable. So again, we are going to be making 2 different lines of vessels and then unique sensors. Right now, we're working on a submerging capability. I think the ultimate way to escape from bad weather or from bad actors is to go underwater, which also allows you, particularly in the acoustic world, to be able to listen really well. We have received 2 grants, one from the Department of Energy and one from the National Science Foundation, which I'll talk about in a minute. This is again, our Horus. The Eye of Horus stands for protection and knowledge. Horus was an Egyptian sky god. We have a transparent hollow wing sail. We patented this design so it can look like a stingray, or it could look like a whale if you were doing pre-positioning of goods, or this is a very efficient design. We have a wing sail control mechanism, which we patented rather than needing a anemometer on the mast, and then a motor. Ours is done passively, which means it's much easier, fewer parts to break, and less expensive. Our servo can go down to, we've got a waterproof case, get down to 100 meters, which is where we want to go. Structural keel payload above and below the hull, what we call the hull down below, on the top of the wing sail, and there are other places as well. We're working right now on the ballast system right here, which is how we will submerge. Just a very quick video because I think it's useful. This is in 25 knot winds, and you see no wake. This was us submerging for a Navy event. We hit the bottom of the Gulfport Bay. It was funny because I was at an event recently and somebody said, "You had me at affordable and submerging." So that was pretty cool. This is our Gen 7. We're now beginning to work on our Gen 8. One of the things that's really interesting about this is it's very light wind. So we're going about a 1/2 knot in probably 1.5 knots of wind, completely flat sea. So we don't need waves. We're a very efficient, slow unit. And slow is good in this case because that means we can listen. We have no, they call flow noise. The faster you go, the more flow noise you have. This is our weather station, or a ultrasonic anemometer. That plus our computer box makes us like a full-featured weather buoy. We received a DOE, Department of Energy Phase 1 that ran from June 1 to June 2022 to design what we call ASGARD, Advanced Seagoing and Underwater Research Device. This is to have a low-cost, DOE was looking for a low-cost, user-friendly, i.e. easy to deploy, environmental monitoring and resource characterization vessel. So that's what we have been designing. This Monday, we submitted for our Phase 2. If it's awarded, we'll know in July. We would start in August 22nd. This would allow us to go down to 30 meters initially. There's lots of uses for something like this in addition to what we would do with DOE, including Homeland Security and DoD. And we'll be able to integrate a number of different sensors. And then in the second 12 months, the Phase 2 is a up to 24-month period. So Phase 1 is to perfect our submerging to 30 meters. And then in Phase 2, we would design a vehicle that could go down to 100 meters. And we will also put our vessel at pack wave, which is where the DOE has spent, I think, about $80 million that Oregon State is running, which will be the first marine and hydrokinetic site for the United States. Just changing now, we received funding recently from the National Science Foundation. We also received an award related to our vessel that we call Hermes, which is a new radically designed multi-hull vessel. be very affordable, autonomous, all our vessels are autonomous, long duration, but also with an ability to submerge once it gets somewhere, which could also represent decentralized offshore storage. Ideal for expeditionary forces. We've got some people in the military that are quite interested in this. For humanitarian aid, 60 to 80% of every dollar is spent getting something somewhere. We think we can deliver to a port or to the beach, and a lot of multifunction capabilities. On the technology side, we have 2 patents pending. So these are in addition to the 5 we have now and others pending. One on a healing wing sail. Normally, if you went over this far, your vessel's about ready to go over, which we will not do, we expect. But if we do go over because of a rogue wave, we have another system where we'll have ballasting system, buoyancy engines in both the AMAs. We'll be able to ride ourselves underwater, come back to the surface and take off again. So we think we'll be able to allow fleets of smaller vessels to de-risk the supply chain and even to deliver to the beach. These areas are perfect to carry UUVs or other implements that you might want to leave behind. We also can do capture and charging of quadcopters and things like that. Lots of uses. I won't go through those, but if you think you can do it, we might be able to help you with it. On the sensor side, we've carried a series of sensors, but we've also designed our own in conjunction with some partners. This is our DAC, our digital acquisition unit, fits right inside our hull tube. And we've got a series of rigid arrays, and this has got 2 computers in it. So we're going to be able to do something that people have not been able to do in a small vessel, which is listen, classify what it is we're listening to, beam form, which is like shining a light in a direction, as well as doing the processing on board. So these are really revolutionary new capabilities on a small vessel, again, 32 kilo vessel. And then we have our own little weather station. It's only 150 grams. Everything has to be very lightweight when you go high on a vessel. This is what what we call our X24. It's a 4 hydrophone array. By being on a ultra quiet vessel, we have what we call laminar flow around the vessel top. This is how it folds up. And this allows us to do some really cool things like beam forming, onboard processing, classifying. We have 2 partners, Applied Ocean Sciences, which is a US company, and JASCO, which is a Canadian company well known for its classifiers. Our vessel is very easy to put in the water. This is a small rib. There it goes. One person's holding, others deploying the array. This is it at about 100 meters, so it's really hard to see. At half a mile, you won't see it. Here we are pulling it back in. Very easy to take apart, put back on the vessel, and take it to shore. We send it in a case, which is of course a great place to store it. Last slide. We went out. We of course are working on longevity. Our longest voyage was 31 days, but we're moving toward multiple months. The problem with multiple months is you got to go out for multiple months with multiple vessels. So we're in the process of kind of pushing that. We also found we didn't have as much power as we wanted. So we've got some radical new deck designs that are giving us a lot more power, and the solar panels on the wing sail. But we were out for a long period of time from November 15th to December 16th. And we went through what NATO would call Sea State 6. And we were a defense contractor, responded to a NATO call for a sailing vessel, and it was supposed to be able to function in NATO Sea State 4, survive Sea State 5, and we were sailing in Sea State 6. So this was 31 knots of wind. We were sailing 1.4 knots, and it was 35 knots of gusts. So we have a very robust vessel, and we are adding a lot more solar on it, and we should be filing another patent in the next couple of months. So anyway, very affordable, autonomous, long duration vessels with unique sensors. And of course, we'll be working with other people and other sensors. So look forward to the questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Michael. That was a great presentation. And if anybody has any questions for Michael, please remember to put them in the chat, and we'll try and address as many as we can during the Q&A session. If not, I'm sure Michael and myself can, and the other speakers can follow up at the end of the event. So now I'd like to introduce Dave Gentle, who's runs business development for North America at RGO. Go ahead, Dave, take it away.
Yeah, thanks, David. Hello, everybody. Let me share my screen here. How's that? That look good?
Looks good, David.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So hello, folks. Yes, Dave Gentle. I'm business development for RGO, a Norwegian company, and we are in the ocean surveying and inspection space. My role with RGO, I joined in January. We're a relatively new, expanding company, and we see the US as a potentially big market for us. So I'm addressing that market space for RGO. So jumping in here, a little bit of history first about RGO. As I mentioned, it's a relatively young company. Started off in Norway in the geophysical and geotechnical survey business, mostly on land initially, but then went through a transition to offshore surveying inspection, pivoting to that area because a lot of the people in RGO, and in fact the founders, have come from the oil and gas offshore exploration industry. So there are a lot of relevant experiences and capabilities that we can bring to that space. So in 2021, April timeframe, the company floated on the Euronext exchange in Oslo, raised some capital, and started to build a company out to address this space. One of the reasons why the space is relevant, I mentioned oil and gas exploration. Something that we've been used to doing in that industry is handling massive amounts of data, and also bringing cutting edge technologies to that surveying space, and that these are all very relevant things to the areas we're addressing at the current time. So that brings us on to our mission, and the mission is simply addressing current day challenges in the offshore surveying space with autonomous robotic solutions. On the right hand side there, a little bit about how we're doing this. First of all, we're building a fleet of high capability autonomous platforms, so both the surface USV platforms and also AUVs. But I would say that it's not just about the vehicles, it's also about the data and the sensors and the technology. And we also have a team that are very experienced in building sensor technologies and handling that data, and getting the most value out of that data for our clients. So that's how we're addressing the space. A little bit here about the sectors that we're focused on. Top left, engineering construction there, increasingly involved in offshore engineering construction. In fact, there's a project shortly to be beginning in Norway, which is it's building the longest floating bridge in the world, and RGO is deploying some of our AUVs there to do the imaging and modeling of the anchor positions for that bridge. So that's an example of a typical offshore engineering project. Offshore wind, of course, that's growing around the world and in the US, and our solutions are relevant to the geotechnical work there, cable routes, foundations, and ongoing inspection. And as offshore wind gets deeper and floating offshore wind grows, then the autonomous AUV solutions are even more relevant in that case. Bottom right, deep sea minerals. This is an area that is growing in interest. The prospects for these areas are deep and very often remote. This also lends itself to the AUV technologies, which can go deep and carry a whole range of sensors which are relevant to the exploration phase of deep sea minerals, but also the future exploitation phase as well. So things like understanding the mineral potential of a potential field, but also the environmental impacts of exploiting that resource as well. And lastly, oil and gas survey inspection, an area that a lot of people in our company know quite a bit about. Traditional methods with surface towed systems are out there, but the oil and gas companies are very interested in autonomous systems to both deman and make operations more automated and safer. Things like pipeline inspections, subsea inspections of infrastructure, and indeed all phases of the oil field project lifecycle. So that's an area of interest for us as well. Moving on here. Yeah, so assets and locations. This is where our global footprint, and we're building this out. So currently headquartered in Norway, in Asker, just outside Oslo. We have a technology center in Sweden. That center is involved in the sensor development. The US, as I mentioned, we see as a big market for us, and I'm based in Houston and looking at our entry into that market space. Brazil, there we have an ongoing operation at the current time. That's a pipeline survey inspection using one of our AUVs. And we have various partners around the world. And I would say that a core to our strategy is building out our customer base and access to opportunities through global partners. That's a very important thing for us. The vehicles on the left there, I'll go through those on the next slide here. So these are the assets that we have. Top left, Sea Raptor is a Teledyne vehicle. And I would say that we're not just acquiring vehicles and putting them on the shelf and sending them out to prospects with again off-the-shelf sensors. We're purposely tailoring these vehicles to specific capabilities that we see are necessary and that we require. So for the Sea Raptor, for instance, we're currently working on enhanced endurance, so pushing out the endurance of that vehicle from 50 to 240 hours, and that'll be coming this year sometime. And that gives us a lot more scope for some of the operations we're looking at. We're also developing our own sensor packages that go in those AUVs as well. And we'll talk a little bit about that in the next slide. Top right, the Eloom Snake robotic AUV is a very interesting AUV. That's very modular, so we can elongate it, put different sensor packages in it. And one of the things that's interesting about this vehicle is, unlike AUVs, which have to keep underway on a certain track, this AUV can actually stop and perform other survey tasks, which are interesting for a lot of other subsea inspection areas. That vehicle at the current time is working with a major oil and gas company in Norway as a seabed resident inspection tool. And RGO aims to be the first commercial operator of that vehicle later this year for some of the survey tasks that we need it for. RGO Argus there, that's a USV we're developing in collaboration with a company called Maritime in Norway. You'll notice the design there is very like a lot of the offshore oil and gas supply vessels. So we've taken some of the design characteristics from that. This is aimed primarily at the offshore wind market for towed sensors, but it also functions as a topside for AUVs, and that's also aimed to the future of sending these assets out, both topside and AUVs in shore-to-shore operations, so it can be completely unmanned, and that's something that we're inevitably moving towards. Bottom left there, the Hugin AUV, we have one of those working in Brazil, as I mentioned, that prospect. And we recently took delivery of a 6,000 meter rated vehicle, which is on a contract shortly. So those are the vehicles. I would say one last thing I would say there is that we do own and operate these vehicles. We have containerized solutions that we deploy on vessels of opportunity. We also have our own crews and our own data management systems. So we provide these capabilities as a full service solution.
Dave, we have about 1 minute, good sir.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'll just briefly talk about this. Our focus area is understanding the challenges that are out there and innovating solutions to address those challenges. So these 4 areas, I've mentioned them all briefly, but sensor technology, we're building very interesting EM capability that goes inside the AUVs, autonomous technology and remote operations, of course. One of the keys for us is excellence in offshore operations, coming from that background of carrying out safe and efficient operations. And we're also building out our what we call our digital ocean space capability, which is designed to ingest the information we collect and then deliver information out of that complex data back to our customers and keep that data live and useful throughout the evolution of those offshore projects. Last slide, won't say too much about it, but that is an example of where our vehicles and services are relevant across the life cycle of, for instance, a offshore wind farm. That's it, David.
Great. Thank you, Dave. Very good presentation. Very interesting information. And like we said before, if you have any questions for Dave, be sure to put them in chat, or we can follow up. He can follow up with you at the end of the event. So now we're going to move forward onto our next presenter, which is Sam McDonald. Sam is the president at Deep Trekker. Sam, please take it away.
Thanks so much. I'm just going to share my screen. One moment. All right, so has my Generation X technology ability made it through to everyone here? I didn't have to ask any millennials to get this working for me if you can all see my screen. Apparently, I've got my closed captionings on too, in case I am not audible or people would like to do other things while watching my presentation. So somebody give me a heads up. You can see, yes, no?
Can see it. If you're able to put it on full screen, great. If not, we can still see it.
Am I not on full screen?
I just see the slide next to it, like the next slide. So that's all I'm curious about.
Oh, I see. It has something to do with the the subtitles or something. Let's turn that off.
You can toggle it in display settings up there on the top.
Oh my, thank you.
Yeah, swap presenter view slideshow.
Did I make it happen? Now I don't have anything. There we go.
There we go. Very good. Thanks.
All
Dave.
right, should have called a millennial, honestly. Anyway, thank you everyone for attending the seminar today, and hopefully we will be informative as well as somewhat entertaining, and I will do my best to keep my mom jokes to a minimum. But my name is Sam McDonald. I've been the president here at Deep Trekker for 12 years now. Please don't tell anyone. I pretend that I've started the company when I was 10. But I'd like to talk to you a little bit today about our remotely operated vehicles and other robotic systems and robotics and autonomy in general for safety, security, and situational awareness. And like the title of this, the dull, the dirty, and the dangerous. So who we are really quickly started the company in 2010 after a prototype development that was made by my partner Jeff Lotz as a college project in 2003. And after my subsequent dropping of a flashlight into Lake Huron, I said, gee, I need a robot to go get that thing. And unlike other people who have brilliant ideas but don't do their homework, we started to make remotely operated vehicles. And perhaps if we had done our homework at the time, it would have seemed too risky. However, we forged forward, and now a decade later, we have 8 robots in our collection, and we'll talk about some of those today. We are headquartered in Kitchener, Ontario, which is in what I like to call the 4th coast of Canada. So we have the Pacific, the Atlantic, and then up in the Arctic regions. But I live in the Great Lakes region, so where we have the largest system of fresh water in the world through the Great Lakes, who act like little mini oceans of their own, except that when I'm scuba diving and I get dry mouth, I can take my rig out and take a drink. Highly recommend coming up here and diving some of our wrecks if that's what you're into. But back in 2010, I didn't have my scuba diving license and wanted a vehicle to be able to go check out what was below the waves. And so we devised Deep Trekker and ended up selling to aquaculture farms in Norway, was our very first customer, and subsequently have gone into 11 different industries with installations in 100 countries around the world. So I won't bore you with too much of a commercial about what we do, but I'll throw on our video here. I'll take the volume down to 0 and talk over it as you see it. So this is a great shot of our testing lake here in Ontario. So we're not afraid of the cold water. We're not afraid of the warm water. We're not afraid of all the water in between. And we've even been involved in pipe crawling industries as well. So we do have a full line of pipe crawlers that do both submerged and dry pipes for looking at sewage, looking at water intakes and other things that our municipalities and our daily lives depend on. What we're seeing here is our Revolution vehicle. This is the largest of 3 different remotely operated vehicles that we make. And you might ask yourself, if you're not familiar with the nomenclature of subsea, there are autonomous surface vessels or unmanned surface vessels. There are what are called AUVs, most often autonomous underwater vehicles, which was in the previous presentation. So they don't usually have a cable on it. They go and collect data and send that back either through satellite link or taking out the data from the unit itself. Remotely operated vehicles are differentiated because they give information in real time. And so that requires us to keep the cable on, although there are some new technologies that are coming out that are showing some promise for taking that cable off. But of course, everybody wants to have multiple types of information coming up, as well as now 4K and 6K and 8K video. And so the ability to send that type of data through the water is quite limited because of the long wavelength and low frequency that is required to travel any great distance through the sea. So we keep the cables on, which then of course begs the question, what does that have to do with autonomy? But we'll get into that a little bit later. Some of the videos that you're seeing here are for our crawling products. So not only do we make those pipe crawlers, but we also make the magnetic hull crawler that we were showing there as well. And we're starting to see autonomous functions being brought into all manner of submersible robots. And that includes our magnetic hull crawlers, as well as the robots that go in those pipes and look after the water that you drink and the water that we use for industrials as well. Oh, there we go. So just really quickly, as I mentioned, our robots, there's the Revolution, clocking in at about 70 pounds with a 3.5 knot speed. Does have, of course, that 4K camera on it, and we can integrate a variety of different sensors on this. So it's becoming more and more important to have a variety of different sensors on the units, not only for the visibility. So if you can't see in water, what do? You generally use sonar. We also are getting involved in photogrammetry, as well as modeling using sonar and laser. So we need to put different sensors for that on it. But for the autonomy side of things, there are a variety of different sensors that allow the robots to act somewhat on their own, either with supervisory control, or if you're lazy like me, let the robot go do its thing and check its recordings afterwards. And we can talk in depth about that technology in the forum chat. Unfortunately, IXBlue isn't here, and they have some of the sensors that we do put on our robots in terms of inertial navigation units and IMUs to keep those steady and doing their own thing in the water. But the Revolution's a great platform for adding a variety of different sensors all at one time. If you're looking for something that's in a smaller package but still quite capable, we have the Pivot clocking in at about 30 pounds. It is fully capable 6-thruster vectored machine. It is in a traditional box-based configuration, but interestingly about the Pivot, we found that the ability to rotate cameras, tools, sonars, and other sensors independently was important. So we came up with the pivoting tool platform. So that allows you to do sonar, camera, as well as tool manipulations through 270 degrees. So if you need to look at something, sonar scan something, or collect something from above you, in front of you, or below you, the Pivot offers all of those capabilities similar to the Revolution. And this is our flagship. This is the 2nd generation of our DTG2, which was a 2nd generation to the college project that I talked about earlier. But this is the DTG3. It's a basketball-sized unit. It is super portable. It's the most maneuverable that we have in the fleet, because we use a patented pitching system, which you can see plenty of videos online for, but it allows it to get into really tight spaces and, importantly, get back out of those spaces as well. And it does offer a platform that's portable enough to take into a kayak kayak or canoe as I do on the regular when I'm shipwreck hunting in my own backyard. So that is our lineup. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about why autonomy on remotely operated vehicles. They always are providing real-time information. They always have a controller on board. But what we're finding now is that remotely operated vehicles and other robots are finding their way out of the realm of open oceans and professionals who are trained to use them and into our everyday lives in the business-to-business and industrial worlds. And what we aim to do at Deep Trekker was to make something that is easy to use, portable, and really intuitive for anyone to understand. Now, when you are out of visibility, unlike my backyard DJI drone, which I do love, I tend to keep my eyes on it at all times, and I do have the benefit of having all of those GPS satellites available to me so that the vehicle, the helicopter can do its own thing very, very simply. We don't have that option under the water. We can't access those GPS satellites, but we wanted to bring that experience as close as possible to an everyday user. And so we went with, our handheld controller, which has been instrumental in our success over the years, but we also wanted it to be very simple to use. We wanted it to stop, before it ran into something, but more as the user let off of the joysticks. And we wanted the user also to be able to map out different waypoints and have the ROV travel to those waypoints on its own. It offers different types of industries like search and rescue and energy management, the capability to do a full survey and be fairly confident that the ROV is doing that survey while they just watch as it goes along, interrupting as they need to in order to take a deeper look at what is under the water. And so we've come up with our mission planner using our bridge system to be able to do this. Fancy words, but essentially acting like your DJI drone without having all those capabilities that are available for aerial and terrestrial robots. And so you can see this is a bit of a screen share of our controller. So this is on either our 7.5-inch controller screen, or you can broadcast this to various mobile devices or put it on a larger screen if you're lucky enough to have a big boat. And you can switch between that map planning and the visual that it's seeing there as well. We do, of course, offer crawlers, as I mentioned before, and autonomy in the crawler side seems to be something that's becoming more and more important for the same reasons. There are entire schools for people who learn how to do pipe inspections and hull inspections that are classified by some of the classification bodies using divers are now becoming the realm of ROVs and crawlers. And so having the ability to use a crawler like this magnetic crawler or the pipe crawler and ensure that you have done the entire inspection depends on some different instruments for autonomy as well. So we're bringing that technology into our crawlers. And we do offer a number of different crawlers. This is showing off the wheeled version of our 3-wheel crawler. You can see on the bottom one, it's got a vacuum on it and say, why would you want a vacuum on this? Well, we're seeing robots now that are being tasked with vacuuming the sludge out of the potable water tanks and reservoirs so that when you turn your taps on, you can be sure that there's no yucky stuff in there. And so we're bringing autonomy in there to do grid patterns on the crawler side of as well. And that's, of course, just another shot of our magnetic crawler on a ship. As you can imagine, they're looking for, those dangerous things that aren't supposed to be on the ship, whether that is damage or EOD or contraband drugs that sometimes get attached to ship by bad actors.
Hey, Sam, sorry to interrupt. You have about 1 minute left.
Oh, thanks so much. So this is our pipe crawler unit, as I mentioned before, and bringing in autonomy into those guys, as well as AI for detecting cracks and different defects. We are also involved in a project for an autonomous vehicle that stays inside of a fish cage and uses AI to detect the holes in the fish nets. And we hope to bring this out to port and harbor security as well. And so just showing off some of the sonar work that we're doing. The sonar is becoming more important for the autonomy, as well as we're working on a project to do subslam using sonar in visibility denied areas. So that's a quick overview of how we're bringing autonomy to ROVs and crawlers and how it's becoming more and more important for the dark, dirty, I like to add dark as well, dark, dirty, dull, and dangerous work that we do here in the blue tech economy. Thank you so much.
Sorry, I was on mute. Thank you, Sam. That was actually really informative. I actually learned a lot more about your company than I do too. So that's great presentation. So that leaves us, sorry to interrupt, that leaves us about 15 minutes, if my clock is right, for questions and answers, and we have a lot, which is great. Some panels we have to help with questions. This time we got a ton of questions, which is good. So we'll try and cover as many as we can. I'm going to try and move them around to the different panelists, and I'm going to start with Dave Gentle. There's one that, let's see. So can you speak to some of the challenges that you see with collection of all of this data? You have a lot of great technology, but what are some of the challenges you face?
Yeah. Thanks, David. Well, there's obviously masses of data increasingly being collected in the ocean. And the more platforms that are out there, the more data there is to collect. So I think there are a number of challenges. One of those challenges is managing to QC the data real time and understand what you're collecting, especially if you've got assets that are surveying deep prospects. It takes a long time to get them out there, deployed down there, and all that kind of thing. So you need to be able to understand that the data you're collecting is the data you're after in the first place. So dealing with that in real time really is key. Also, in terms of marrying together all these different data sets that are collected, not perhaps just on your operation, but other operations that the end user has collected data for, how do we properly manage those and make the most of marrying those data sets together? That's, I think, an important task. And that plays into the digital twin type nature of offshore projects, whether it's an oil and gas project or a wind farm project or whatever. So I think that's increasingly important. I think the tools are there to be utilized, but getting that processing, interpretation, and delivery mechanism active, where the data is active and can be delivered to the customer, I think is key.
Very good. Thank you, Dave. I have a question for Michael. What is the power budget and what kind of payloads can you support? I think you covered a lot of that in there, but if you could address that question.
Yeah, sure. We are in the process of, with our semi-submersible, talking with some first beta users, but in our own long duration vehicle testing, we found that we were able to give a couple of watts, but not as much as we wanted. So we've got a whole new upper deck that we've created that's got about 4 times as much power on it. So we should be north of 5 watts continuous that we can give. And that was kind of what we had thought, which is quite a bit more than most of the unmanned underwater vehicles, the gliders and things like that. And we are in the process of creating a submersible slip ring. Again, one of the things that we have to do that's a little different from most is the ability for all of everything we're developing to go underwater, initially 30 meters and then later down to 100 meters. And so a normal slip ring is needed because our wing sail can go 360 degrees around the carbon fiber mast. But there wasn't one of the size and the strength and ability to submerge. So we're creating that. And that means we'll be able to probably 60 to 80 watts on the sail as well. So we may have well over 100 watts of power, whereas now we're only creating about 15 watts of power. So the answers are right now we give about 3.5, 4 watts continuous, but we expect to be able to go 5+ as we have the bigger capabilities, and that whole area of solar is amazing. Some of the things that I've learned and some of the things that we're trying to do. So we expect to be able to go out for months at a time. We've got several people that look like they're going to be playing beta clients with us. So sensors, we're doing passive acoustics because we're such a small. We're a perfect vessel for acoustics because we're ultra quiet by ourselves, no hole slapping, anything like that. And we've created our own onboard processing, our own onboard rigid array, and being rigid allows us to do some things that others can't do. We will get into active sonar, but that's a little bit further down the road for us. And then almost anything else you want to put on, we can put on. Turbidity sensor, CTD, et cetera. It's just that we're not going to build those. We've focused on some of our own products, the weather station and the acoustic related, but we'll be working with others on other third-party sensors.
Did we lose David here?
Yeah, it looks like we did.
Okay. Danielle, you have some questions as well. You got the list there. So would you be able to send one over to or ask Sam one or David as well, or Dave Marchetti?
Yeah, no, I have some questions here, and one just came in for Sam that asks, within the ROV lines, how much of your unit volume is COTS, capital COTS / near COTS versus custom?
So COTS is consumer off the shelf or
you.
nearly consumer off the shelf. Yeah, no worries. I mean, volume wise, it's a small amount that is custom robotics work for us, and that is simply because we sell literally thousands of robots every year. So we do sell a lot of what's standard off the shelf, and with Deep Tracker and the bridge system, what is standard off the shelf for us is often custom robotics for others, and that's because we built a system where we can very, very quickly integrate third-party sensors. So we tend to look at, can we carry it, can we power it, and can we communicate with it? So if it's RS-45232 or Ethernet and it's big enough for us to ballast it out with foam, and we can power it with either a direct power or battery system, then we consider that to be consumer off the shelf. That being said, somebody always brings us something that's super interesting, or they want to put 17 things on at once. So we dedicate about 15 to 20% of our resources to our special projects and custom group. So volume for volume, it's probably in the single digit percentages in the terms of number of robots we ship out the door that go through the customs group. But we do dedicate a significant amount of our resources to that, because we tend to find that what today is a special project is tomorrow is COTS. Thanks so much for the question.
That's great. I guess I'll just keep it rolling. And just before I ask the next question, I want to let everyone know, if we don't get to your questions, which I'm pretty excited about all the questions that we have coming through the chat, we'll definitely circle back via email and make sure we connect and get your questions answered. And with that, we have a question from Jay Lustig to all of the panelists. So maybe I'll just start my screen. We'll start with Dave, go to Michael, and then Sam. Do any of your buoys, sensors, vehicles perform any marine mammal detections? Example, use for detecting right whales to avoid net entanglement or ship strikes. And Dave, like I said, we'll start with you.
Yeah, sure. Well, this is an area that's very important to us, because we have assets out in the ocean performing survey operations, and not conflicting with marine mammal populations or harming them is key to our customers and to us. So we have observation sensors and technologies that we employ. They are coming off the shelf for us, and also some of the services that we provide in doing that. Just one example of how we address this: on our USV, we have redeployable moon pools on that USV for deploying various instruments, and we necessarily have to have those sealed so that marine mammals don't get trapped in the vessel. So that's something we've employed on that USV, so as an example. But yeah, it's something that we're interested in, but we don't build these detection capabilities ourselves, but we certainly use them.
Great. Michael, do you have anything to add to that?
Sure. We are working with Applied Ocean Sciences on the hardware and a certain amount of the classifiers, but we're also working with JASCO in Canada, which is a really well-known company creating the algorithms, the classifiers to understand what's going on in the ocean. They've done a lot of work in oil and gas, a lot of work in wind, offshore wind. And so one of the reasons that we received the DOE phase 1 is that the Department of Energy is looking for easy to use, long duration, affordable vessels. So our vehicle would be about $100,000 with acoustic array, all the weather station, everything built in so that we can classify right whales and almost anything else, bad actors coming into a region. And what's interesting about our vehicle, again, is that it's long duration. It can stay in a certain spot, or it can patrol a spot, and it can listen and hear things dozens of miles away, if not even 50 to 100 miles away. Within the next year, some of the funding we're getting is being used for the submerging capability. And when you get below the water line, you just hear better, because there's a lot of anthropogenic and bubble noise at the surface. So the ability to listen when you're down 8 meters, which is a couple of meters, which 8 feet or 9 feet, is the first step. And that we get just by having a rigid array off the bottom of our hull. But then if we go down 20 meters, 30 meters, you're much further away from natural noise. So we should be able to hear much further away, again, classify on board, and then send exception-based reporting using the Iridium. So yes, we can hear, and we're talking to a number of organizations about whether it's fish counting or it's protecting offshore wind and hydrokinetic energy with marine mammals. But we're also going to be adding electromagnetic field, both E-field sensors and magnetometers, so that we can tell if the things that are being put in the water are creating some kind of an issue vis-a-vis marine life in toto, not just marine mammals, but crustaceans, really anything and everything. So the Asgard product will bring in the whole electromagnetic field and acoustics to be able to protect marine life in multiple ways.
Thanks so much, Michael. I really appreciate that. That's a great perspective. Sam, did you have anything? Do you want me to repeat the question at all? Because it's been a minute.
No, I've been following along, so can add color from the ROV space. What I didn't get to talk about in the presentation is another big trend in the industry is system of systems, and we're doing fly out ROVs from AUVs as well as ASVs, autonomous surface vessels, as well as autonomous underwater vehicles. And importantly, it's entanglement itself is an issue, but it's no secret that we're continuing to make more and more installations into the sea, and what used to be limited to drag nets and oil and gas installations is now coming onto sustainable aquaculture as well as wind. Everyone looks at wind as a green technology, but it's not without its subsea environmental impacts. And so we're seeing the trend of not only looking after that infrastructure, but also trying to take an environmental stewardship role using the same robotic systems and systems of systems, whether that's a flyout from an ASV or an AUV, is just going to extend those capabilities. And as Michael was alluding to, the different tools that can be used to detect marine mammals, as well as impacts on other life, whether that is visual, sound-based, electromagnetic, can all be carried on the ROVs as well. And I think that the ROV flyouts from the larger systems just increase that capability. Now, the day that I can fly an ROV and free a marine mammal or other subsea wildlife from a net will be the greatest success, but I'm not that good of a pilot just yet.
Well, I personally, if anyone follows your career, anything is possible when it comes to Sam McDonald. So
flattery will get you everywhere.
So we only have a few minutes left, and I just have to say first, thank you so much for this great discussion, and also to our participants and attendees for all the great questions that you're posing. The last question that I'll ask, you just spend a minute or so on it. What are the most exciting opportunities to you that are emerging within this space? And we'll start again with Dave, go to Michael, and then Sam.
Well, there's lots of them. I think the adoption of these autonomous technologies, I think that's definitely a journey and not a binary thing, but I see more and more call for these types of technologies. the technology in a lot of cases is there. Some of it has to evolve, but I certainly see a future where we can make these things a lot more automated. And that opens the door to exploring different areas and different things as well. So I think that's the future vision is what I'm really energized by.
Great, thanks, Dave. Michael, did you have any comments?
Well, I think these three companies showed amazing technology and advances. I mean, gosh, from when I first met Sam some years ago, you've added so much to your product line, and it's just so exciting to see. You know, a lot of companies kind of make some sales and sit on their laurels, and it's very clear that Deep Trekker is not one of those. And Dave Gentle, in addition to being an RGO, is also one of my board members, and so I think it shows how much I think of him and both the company he was with before, Ion, and now another very interesting company that's pioneering a lot of interesting technology. And Norway is doing some amazing things. If you picked one country that is out there making things happen, I would say probably Norway, pound for pound, person for person, is top of the heap. But great technologies, great companies, great people, and there's so much to be done. We're still at the starting gate. So we look forward to working with these other two companies and OPT as well. And thank you for letting us do this today. So lots to come.
Great, Sam, you can jump in anytime.
I've never been one to be shy, but thank you for putting this together. And I tend to think that the collaboration of all the companies is really where we're going to make the greatest gains in this space and all others. And if you haven't been following my career as much as maybe Danielle has, it may be news to you that last Wednesday we were announced that we were acquired by Halma out of the UK, whose mandate is cleaner, safer, and healthier world. So we could not be more proud and excited to be part of that group, in particular in the confidence of Halma, to believe that we fit into the safer, healthier world, and looking forward to working with the consortium of companies there, as well as everyone here on the call and the greater ocean space as well. So I really think that's where we're going to see the future, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
Well done, Sam. That was acquired. That's news. Well done. Very good.
Congratulations, Sam. I did not expect that.
Very good. Well, I mean, this, I suppose we can, maybe continue this offline, but just for now, it is 9 o'clock. And so this is where we're meant to end. So before people drop off, please register if you'd like to attend the next BlueTech Global Connect. It's going to be on May 19th. And the theme is Earth Observations and Their Effort to Protect Our Planet. We again will have a fantastic panel of presenters. We'll have Valerio Perusini, who's the president and CEO of Telespazio out of Italy, Alex Halterman, who is a director of technical development with Quartus Engineering out of the United States, and Carlos Gaitan, who is a co-founder and CEO of Benchmark Labs, also out of the United States. Again, that's May 19th. Stay tuned for that. So thank you to everyone for coming. Thank you to the presenters. It's been a true pleasure to have you present for TMA BlueTech Global Connect. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks, folks.
Cheers.
Bye.
So Sam,